Accelerator, a film about real time, promoting digital independence.
Hi, my name is Mario. I'm here with Susan to talk about shock therapy. And for me, it's not therapy. I have a history in my family with this issue, and it goes back a long way. My mother is now 71 years old. She's in a halfway house. She'll, for the rest of her life, she'll have to have people take care of her. She had, in my recollection, at least 2, if not 3 times. I remember 2 times officially that she had shock treatment, and maybe a 3rd time. The whole thing started when she was very young. She was actually in 5th grade in school. She had anxiety problems and maybe problems following as other kids, the mass or the system or the school. So they decided at that age to start her on anxiety pills. So it started with that. And that kind of calmed her to a point where she was having trouble in school functioning, because it was like just a drug that was downing her. And after a while in that treatment, they decided that they should remove her from school because it didn't work out in school. So in 5th grade, that was the end of her schooling. They removed her from school, they took her home, and they kept going with other pills. And because the anxiety pills, she stayed home, she slept a lot, she gained weight. Then they gave her diet pills to put the weight down. And then here comes the pills and more pills, pills to wake up, pills to go to sleep, pills to digest, pills when you feel good, when you don't feel good, and then it started when she was in 5th grade. And then later on at 17, schizophrenia, manic depressive, social disorders, a whole bunch of stuff, and more pills and more pills and more diagnostics, and to the point where it became at one point shock treatment. And I was maybe about 12 or 14 years old. We were in a hospital. I don't remember if it was Lakeshore or Douglas at that time. And I was actually, I've seen part of it, and then they removed me from the corridor where I could see the room open where they were doing this, like you had mentioned, with the headband and the rubber thing in the mouth. And for a 12 or 14-year-old kid, it's quite an image to see, I gotta tell you. And it's hard for me to talk about this right now, but this thing, she's 71 years old now. She's had for about 50 years treatments with all sorts of drugs, all sorts of therapy, shock treatment and stuff. And my big point here, or my big issue, is that she was not cured of anything. I mean, if they would do all this, and you could say she's cured, or they've cured someone, or they've cured. I mean, if you have a broken leg, you go in the hospital, they repair your arm, and off you go, and you can start your life again. You can say they fixed you. But when you're 71 years old in a halfway house, still on medication, and having people to have to take care of you, and not being able to take care of your own kids and your family for 50 years, I mean, this is not being cured. This is just doctors testing out on people what they cannot do on birds or anything, because it's not going to help them. So it's, for me, it's actually just using people as we say in French, cobaye. I don't know how to say it in English, but it's like just using people just as like from laboratories to play in their brains, or to test pills for pharmaceutical companies or whatever. I haven't done probably as much research as you've done, and there's a lot of questions that I have, because one thing, as much as it was hard coming for me here today to do this, as much as I wanted to do it, because in a way you're an inspiration for me, because my mom is you know, will never be in a way fine, you know, and you found a way to get out of that wheel, and you know, like to work it out on your own, and I find you so courageous, and in a way it gives me hope for people You know, like my mother couldn't do this, but I see this through you, and it makes me happy. You know, it makes me happy to see that because you've left the medication, because you've left this, I see your strength and I see your passion in what you want to do, and it makes me proud, and I'm honored to have met you because of this. It really helps me out. You said something about stigma, and this is something when you said that, it really triggered something, because like Momo mentioned, you know, there's a lot of stuff when you're young that, you know, with friends or other family people, and there's things that are hard to talk about. You know, sometimes sex is hard to talk about with friends or something. But mental illness or problems like this, and especially when it's in your family, or it's you, or it's your brother or your mother or something, it can be very tricky. And especially when you're an adolescent, you're already fighting with stuff in your head. And Momo had mentioned that sometimes I would disappear and not tell anybody why, not call them, say I'm not going to be there and stuff. You know, it's very hard to share these things, and you hardly understand them yourself because you're young and you're dealing with issues. And then to share this or to talk about it with other people, even though they're your good friends or even family members, or, you know, it's very hard. And there was a lot of issues of, you know, like if Momo remembers, you know, like back then, I hardly brought anybody home. Like whether it was girlfriends, whether it was friends. You know, friends sometimes would say, hey, when I'm going to go to your place, when I'm going to meet your parents. Or girlfriends would say, after 3 months going out together, you know, hey, I haven't met your mother yet, you know, like, or stuff like that. And it was just trying to push everything out because of that stigma, because of the thing. If you say, oh, my mom's in a wheelchair because she lost a leg in an accident or something, there's no problem, come on home or whatever. But as soon as it's mental illness or it's psychiatric treatment or stuff, there's a huge stigma with that that is just so awful that people don't talk about, people hide it, and it has to stop. It has to stop. People have issues, people have that, and this is the good way right now to let the message out and let the people know. First of all, anything that happens with your mom, with your dad, with your brothers, with your family, in any situation like that, you have to talk to your friends or you have to talk to the right people. And we have to stop this. We have to stop thinking because somebody is different that he's not normal. My mom, after hearing you, you know, like I've had an issue where we sat down with doctors at one point. I don't know if I was 27 or what age we were with the family, and we sat down. And he was one of the doctors that made probably the most sense out of this. He took out the whole history, the medical history of all the pills that she had taken from the starting age to where she was then. And he was talking about, he was a doctor, and he was talking about a detox, because that was one of the problems that she had, was all this accumulation of pills that she was addict to medication, to different medications. So there was a detox, you know, that she needed. He went through the whole thing, and also how it affected us. And when you told your story, it really inspired me, because I could see now and understand better. You know, like it was like an awakening. You know, when you're in grade 5 at that age, you don't control what's happening around you. You know, so it's adults that control what's going on around you. You know, their parents, God bless their soul, they weren't mean people. She had a good family, but you know, like. But they were listening to doctors, and especially in those days in the 40s, I mean, or 30s and 40s, doctors were God. I mean, if you go to the doctor, I mean, a lawyer, a judge, a doctor, he should know what he's doing. He's not going to do any wrong. He's just going to, you know, like so they kind of trusted the doctors that were diagnosing this and that, and then it's better to take her out of school. They should have never done that. You take away all the social skills from the kids if you remove them from other kids, even though they're having problems. If they're having problems in school, you know, you can still arrange something that they have, you know, some kind of class and program or something, so that they can still be with the other kids and stuff. But it was just like mistake after mistake after mistake, and drugs after drugs and stuff. And it's clear to me that you know, after hearing your story, what you went through with your family, and then the first 3 days, and then the first 3 months, and you know, like I kind of didn't have that link to follow, you know, like those first times, because she had issues, but she had worse issues, let's say, when she lost her mother. Then she had a very bad depression. Then after that, when she lost her dad, she had another bad depression. And all these issues, you know, like it takes their toll, and there's not one pill, there's not one magic pill that's going to fix you from losing your mother, losing your dad, or anything like that. And you've really made it clear before, when you've talked about, you know, those first 3 days turning into 3 months, and then after those 3 months, the more pills going home. And like you said you were just sleeping on the couch. You know, like I remember sometimes when my mother would come back home and she was so much on pills like this, then I would say, you know, if there was a chance, you know, I could have a friend over, you know, and go quickly to my room, and then he would say, what? You know, he would see her in the living room just like this, and he would say, oh, it's not so bad, you know. But it's not so bad, but it's not so good. She's not living, she's actually just being drugged out on the couch watching TV. So that's no cure, and that's not being fine. That's being just okay, if you ask me. And when you talked about that, when you said after those 3 months, those pills didn't stop. It's not like they took you 3 days, and then from those 3 days they said, okay, there's a problem, and we're going to fix it. And for 3 months they gave you all sorts of therapy, and then after those 3 months you're off and there's nothing. After those 3 months there were still pills.
Yes.
How long did this pseudo treatment did really last?
From 1972 to 1990, 18 years. I was 17 years old, a kid, when I was first admitted. I went in voluntarily, thinking that they would help me. I didn't know about social services. I didn't need social services. My dad had a good government job. I didn't know about shelters. I don't know whether they had youth shelters at that time. I don't think so. But psychiatry duped me. They duped me into thinking I was sick. So I started believing my labels, taking the medication, getting hooked on psychiatric drugs, and I went from one psychiatric disorder to another medication. And when the psychiatrist deemed, oh, Suzanne, the medication is not working now, we'll have to change your disorder. So he'd take up the psychiatric Bible, the diagnostic stat book on mental disorders. He looked at the DSM-4 book and say, oh, well, you've got these symptoms. I don't think that is bipolar. You might be now, okay, schizophrenic or schizoaffective. Okay, we're going to change your label and change your medication. And when that didn't work, they just went from page to page and said, oh, okay, we'll pick this disorder and these blue pills. Okay, then we'll pick this disorder and these pills. And that continued for 18 years. Till I said, enough is enough. I fired the shrink and dumped the pills down the toilet, which is going off. The pills cold turkey is not good. It's better to be weaned off if people choose to do that.
Well, I rest my case. 18 years of pills, shock treatment, 5 times.
Yes.
Heart condition after that, on the 5th time?
What happens, my heart actually stopped and I had to be revived to save my life.
18 years of pills, diagnostic, pills after pills, shock treatment, and the only relief was after 18 years when she finally stopped and, you know, did it on her own. My mom's 71 years old. It lasted for 50 years, and nothing, well, I mean, things have changed. She's in a halfway place, but I mean, they didn't cure her. This has to stop right now. I mean, what else do I have to say, or do we have to say? 18 years of guinea pigging their way into somebody's brain and body. 50 years for my mom. I mean, shocking people, you know, like with electric shocks. I mean, we're down to the ages whether we're bleeding people. If you had a cold, let's bleed them and stuff. Now it's let's zap them, you know, like it doesn't cure anything, but maybe it'll calm them down for 3 days. Let's zap people up. I mean, the zapping has to stop. The zapping has to stop now. As you've mentioned, Douglas, before, I just have to drive by. I don't even have to go now in the corridors or anything. If I just see the building and those big trees, you know, all lined up, just driving by, I feel bad and I feel sick to my stomach. And that's what they've done. They've shoved her in there for so many years, and when they had to take her out of there, it was into another institute, another place. But at least that doctor, one doctor throughout, and I would say that doctor apologized, and then there's another doctor, which I'm going to say his name, Dr. Chartrand. He's dead now, and when he was like 82 years old, he got sued by many people because he was a drug pusher for medical companies, and they found, you know, like they tracked him down after all. But I mean, he was 82. He died when he was 89, 6 years later or something. He didn't even do jail time or whatever and stuff. And they realized that for years, he was actually, you know, under the medical companies, you know, to provide samples and try to get people, you know, like, and just, he was a drug pusher, a legal drug pusher, you know. So, but at least that one doctor did, you know, apologize for all the wrong and the abuse and everything that went wrong with that file and with our mom. And it's too little too late. At least he had the honesty, and he had the human, at least, heart to find a non-doctor way to explain the whole situation. But that's one out of thousands and millions. And to think that he's one doctor that's apologizing, but that people are just keep getting zapped right now, it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
And I'm sorry that your mother had to go through that, and your family.
Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Thank you for your support, and your mother's story is very heart-wrenching, but you've said it very well said, and you got it to the point. Let's end electroshock. Let's end the torture now, so people like Mario's mother, my mother had electroshock also after me. Electroshock is unethical, barbaric, and inhumane. It must stop in Canada, and it will. With the help of the people here today, Mario has said it very well. His mother's story is very heart-wrenching. It got right to my soul because I've been there. Thank you, Momo, Creela, Kid, and my husband, Stephen. And I'd like to give you a hug.
Oh, thank you, Susan.
And I'm sorry you had to go through
it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's a lot of pain. Thank you for your courage.
Yeah, but you're really helping me. And
You're
giving me a lot of strength.
You feel that pain, and that pain has to go. So families like this they don't have to suffer, and people won't have to suffer through electroshock. I don't get emotional during a lot of my speeches, but I'm going to tell you that I went to the Douglas Hospital with my friend who has passed on 2 months ago, Harry Funk, a lawyer, a criminal and civil lawyer, and my friend Alan. He went to the Royal Ottawa Hospital. He was an intern there in psychiatry. He was so disturbed by what he saw, he became a patient there shortly after. And what happened was we went to the Douglas Hospital just to check up on it. We got lost and went to another hospital. We went down this big lane with big trees and this archaic old building. It looks awful. It's like an old fort. It's like a creepy looking place. You go in the main entrance, and when I went in there, it was very sad because the man had tardive dyskinesia, which is the long-term effects of psychotropic drugs. He was walking like this, the tongue hanging out, and back and forth. I said, Harry, I got to go in. It's so disturbing, so upsetting. And then when we went upstairs to the reception. There's a dim light. We could hardly see. I said, is that a room or a bathroom? Where's the bathroom? We went down, and then some patients came out of the rooms and said, hello, bonjour, some spoke English. I said, we're from Ottawa, we're just visiting. And then we stayed and talked to some of the psychiatric survivors who were telling us what happened there. Some had stayed a few years, some had stayed there sometimes their whole life. And one young man in particular, about 25, turned around, and another young lady said to me, Harry and Alan, can you take us home with you? And I was so upset. I was going to start crying, and I didn't want them to see that. I said, I got to go to the washroom. I just really bawled my eyes out. And when she came out, the young lady said, are you okay? I said, no, I'm just upset about something else. You know? And I had to leave, and I stopped. When we left, the man was still doing the shuffle, the walking back and forth. He'd go about 10 feet and turn around with his tongue hanging out like this, and it was so disturbing. I could not return there. Though I had met some new friends, it was so disturbing. It still haunts me to this day. It's a terrible, decrepit place, and nobody should be in there. And the psycho prisons, the psychiatric hospitals, they have to shut down because it is a way to control people and lock them up. It's against our dignity and our rights.
Very well said.
I want to thank Mario for sitting down here and sharing this very personal story with us and with Sue. This has been a very, very emotional episode. I want to really thank you, for inviting us over here.
You're welcome.
And contacting me, because this has been an incredibly important thing for you, for my friend Mario, for Creel and myself and the kid. We were all affected from the beginning that we met you, and we heard from you, we spoke with you, and we saw what it is you're doing. For people out there that want to get involved, where can they send some information, send their letters of concern? Is there a website or something that you're part of that people can go out there and reach and give their feedback?
Yes, as I said, there is a group called mindfreedom.org. The way MIND freedom.org. There are 100 groups all over the world who have joined this group, and they are fighting psychiatric oppression all over the world. This is a great website. That's a starting place. And it has lots of information, it has lots of campaigns, and it is great. And there's also, like the email list. There's an email list called Zapback. I mean, people who are fighting electroshock, people who are fighting global issues like psychiatric assault and everything else. Mindfreedom.org is a great place to start.
Okay, all right. And if you had to leave people with one last word when it comes to electroshock, give it to them.
Stop the torture now. Stop hurting people. Stop it today. Now.
I thank you very much for taking the time to watch and write. Peace out.
Thank you.